Hello, everybody. Welcome back to CAEL Live. If you remember, I said that we would start each episode with a quote, and as promised, here is your quote for today. Make short-term compromises for long-term gains. So let me repeat that for you. Make short-term compromises for long-term gains. As always, I will reveal the author and talk a little bit about them towards the end. If you know the answer already, please comment below and please do not Google it. Okay, let us start our show. Hello and welcome back to CAEL Live. My name is Ashwati, and if you're the first time, in this series, we will guide you through your journey into Canada as an international student. We will be talking about international student life, Canadian higher education, admissions, recruitment, and much more. At the end of our main segment for today, we also have some English language tips to help you score better in your CAEL test. Now, if you're wondering what the word CAEL is and why I'm repeating it so many times, the CAEL test is an academic English test. And the difference between this and other English tests is that this one is specifically made for students who are wishing to study in Canada. This test is accepted and preferred by more than 180 institutions across Canada, and it can now be taken online at home. We are also hoping to launch the online option internationally by this month or the next. So I urge you to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon if you haven't already to get our latest updates. So in today's episode, we're talking to Dana Montgomery of Wilfred Laurier University in Waterloo, Ontario, and Fabiano Maciel, who is from Langara University in Vancouver. They will be sharing their insights on how to go about choosing the right institution for your higher education in Canada. Let's give them a warm welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, and thank you for joining us, Dana and Fabiano. We are excited to kick off our third episode with you. How are you both doing?
Dana, you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm doing really well. Really happy to be here on the CAEL Live third episode. It's awesome to be here. Are we doing introductions? Should I introduce myself and what I do?
Sure. Totally, that is the first question anyway, but I just wanted to just quickly tell our viewers that if you have any questions that you would like to ask Dana and Fabiano, please feel free to comment below. This is a live session, so they will be able to answer your questions about international education in Canada. Okay, Dana, the floor is all yours.
Okay. So thank you for the introduction. My name is Dana Montgomery. I am an international recruitment and admissions coordinator at Wilfred Laurier University in Waterloo and Brantford, Ontario, Canada. I am a very proud graduate of Wilfred Laurier University. I graduated with a degree in sociology and psychology back in 2016. And I've loved my time at Laurier so much that I just decided to stay and work there, and I never left. So still at the university and loving the opportunity to share my story and what I love about Laurier and why Laurier is an excellent fit for all students and international students in specific.
Sounds wonderful. We will actually, I will actually get into a little bit more about your day-to-day role, but I want to hear from Fabiano a little bit.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here. So thank you so much for the opportunity. And well, my name is Fabiano Maciel. I work at Langara College, a public institution here in Vancouver, BC. And I've been at Langara for 5 years and also a former student, not in the regular studies programs, but I was a student 7 years ago, fell in love with the institution, the instructors, the people working there, and decided to pursue a career there. So here I am.
Great. So thank you so much, both of you, for joining us. And I'm really excited for this opportunity that a lot of international students have to speak to you both, because I know I didn't have this opportunity. So Dana, just if you could tell us a little bit about what your day-to-day looks like at Wilfred Laurier.
Sure. So my day-to-day now is certainly different than what my day-to-day was 6 months ago, or even, let's say this time last year. In a typical world, I would be traveling to different regions all around the world, meeting with prospective students and families and government officials, education agents, and working with them to explain some of the incredible opportunities that are available to study in Canada. And then I kind of look at it as like a three-layered approach. I not only discuss why Canada is an excellent choice for students, but then I have another added layer where I have to talk about why studying in Ontario is an excellent choice. And then I talk about as well, importantly, discussing why Laurier is a really great fit. So what I sort of characterize my role as a recruitment and admissions person is that I am out there spreading knowledge, and my job is to help students find their best fit. I'm an advocate for post-secondary education in Canada. And so what my job is to help students understand what Laurier has to offer and to help them to see and realize if Laurier is a good fit for them. So things are different now, very busy, lots of Zoom calls as opposed to in-person presentations and meetings, as I'm sure you can all understand. So it's a little different, not traveling, but still really busy doing a lot of those same things in a virtual environment.
Sounds wonderful. And so you like you brought out the Zoom thing. So I was curious to know if how is that experience? Like are the students more receptive? Do they have your complete do they have your complete attention now that you're face to face? Do you find that it's easier to, provide ideas and provide solutions?
Yeah, I think that because time and space is less of an issue now. We were talking about, time zones and things, and not being a physical being in that country and having to organize those sorts of things. That can definitely open up, the availability for both recruiters and for students and parents to chime in, watch a recording, things like that. I think that the pandemic has changed changed recruitment in a really, really big way, and opened up the door to some new opportunities and things that maybe recruiters weren't doing in the past. So I think that everybody is experiencing a little bit of what we're calling Zoom fatigue, because it's a lot of screen time. So I'm recognizing that. I'm sure that you can all recognize Fabiano. You can probably relate to me on that. It's a lot of screen time, which I feel can be very exhausting.
You hit the nail right on the head. I know what you're talking about. I totally understand that. And especially people who are in the service industry like us, it's a lot more Zoom time than normal. So Fabiano, what about you? Are you also feeling the Zoom fatigue? What does your day-to-day look like?
Yeah, it's pretty much like I think Dana, she went straight to the point. We were that kind of professional that had the pleasure and opportunity of talking to people face to face, and always communicating with people, traveling to different places so we can bring our beautiful country to the knowledge of these people overseas. And then suddenly, no, you cannot go out anymore, you cannot travel anymore, you cannot talk to people face to face anymore unless you have a face mask and they're 2 feet apart. So everything changed dramatically. And then suddenly, you think that, oh yeah, I'm in the office and I'm doing computer all the time and I'm doing meetings all the time, but it's completely different when you are obligated to be confined in a space, and you are obligated to have every single meeting through Zoom or through WebEx or through Teams, and you have to adapt to this new reality. And suddenly you are, from the moment that you wake up to the moment that you almost go to bed, in front of the screen. So yeah, sometimes it gets a little bit exhausting, but luckily we still have the opportunity to use this tool to reach out to so many people, and we've been able to reach people that are in places we've never thought that we would be able to reach. So that's the upside of that. It's the fact that people are a little bit more open to the idea and the opportunity of talking to us, connecting with us, even though we are not there in front of each other. So that's a good thing.
Wonderful. I think that's really nice. And I think that makes way for our first question also. And Dana, you did say that you talked to a lot of prospective students and help them understand which university and which institution is a fit for them. So I will ask this question to you. I would like to have a general idea of how a student goes about picking a choice, like picking their university of choice. For example, we actually have a question here from one of our viewers who's asking, I know we can even talk about this as a hypothetical situation. If somebody is an agricultural graduate and they are looking for options in Canada, how does one even go about starting to research something like that?
Yeah, that's fantastic. And the role of a recruiter is really to help you to and guide you through the process of doing some of your own research and being a knowledge base and a person that can give you information, knowledge, but also lead you in the right direction. I would say that, typically when a recruiter when we come in is when you're starting to ask yourself, okay, I know I want to study in Canada. And if for the specific question about the agriculture, if a student is maybe looking for a graduate program or something, for example, in agriculture, it might, be something as simple as taking a look online, taking a look to see the program that you're interested in studying, and then looking to meet with the recruitment department at that institution. And another really great thing about, this Zoom era and this Zoom age is that recruiters have a lot more scope, like Fabiano was saying. We have the ability to meet with students on a more regular basis. So I would say that, making that initial connection through a lot of times, sometimes it's word of mouth. It's incredible how, words about universities and, which university is great for certain subject areas or for student experience. But you want to do a little bit of research and then get in touch with the recruitment office at some of the institutions you're interested in. What I would also mention, and I tell students this all the time, if you're an international student, you have the world at your fingertips. You have options to go anywhere you want. And so my biggest piece of advice is to knock down doors. And I know you're not physically knocking down doors, but just drill recruitment people and institutions with questions. Ask the questions that you want to ask, knock on their door to make sure that you're getting the information that you're looking for, and then build a relationship. That's what we do as recruiters. We're relationship builders. And so then once you connect with us, we can go from there and keep the conversation flowing.
Beautiful. So that was a great tip. And I'm hoping, Jairam, if you're watching this, please do take Dana's advice and don't hesitate to ask all the questions you can. Institutions are more than happy to have international students. It works both ways. So, they will answer your questions. And if you find that you have multiple options to pursue your course, ask that many more questions. So thank you, Dana. That was a really helpful tip. And Fabiano, I want to understand a little bit about this from you as well. So when I was looking to study for higher education, my first step was to look for the courses because I knew what I wanted to do. But a lot of people also look for institutions. And I know that some people start way ahead even before let's say if they're pursuing a master's course, they start way ahead even before they finish their bachelor's course. But some people start late. So, if you could in your experience, what is a typical kind of like step-by-step growth strategy for a student to start researching? And if they do start late, how do you guide them differently versus when they do start earlier?
I wouldn't like to say that students would be late because I believe that there is timing for everything. There is the right time for everything and for everybody. So I wouldn't mind too much in maybe considering or thinking that you are late in the game or you are too ahead of the game. Of course, if you already know, if we have a better idea of what you are looking for, what you really like, what really drives you, better, because of course you can narrow down your research. And if you are not quite sure yet, you can still start exploring options to see what really calls your attention. But I believe that what changes in the process is that if you are really sure about what you want and when you want to start, and you already have all the answers from your side in terms of how can you apply yourself and when are you able and ready to do it, it is easier for us to guide students in terms of giving them proper advice related to when you have to prepare to submit a certain documentation, when you have to prepare to apply to a certain program, when you can start looking for options of accommodations or things like that. If you are a little bit late in the game, then I would say that you need to have a little bit of patience, right? Because I feel that sometimes when people have the impression that they're a little bit late, they tend to rush things a little bit so they can move faster. And sometimes they can make decisions that are not probably going to be the best ones, right? So even if you have the impression or the sensation that you are running a little bit behind, try to block that and try to keep calm and really pursue things slowly. Get the proper information, dive in, really take the time to research, really take the time to understand. If you are asking questions, what you're getting in terms of answers, is that really what you're looking for? So you don't have to rush into making decisions that may compromise your future. So that's important to keep in mind as well.
Great. So patience is key, and that's important. I know that people get anxious. I was too. When am I going to hear back from them? So yeah, you're right. Patience is key. Dana, do you have something you wanted to add to this?
I think Fabiano got it all. Really great points. Really great points.
Perfect. So the next question, I do want to hear from both of you. So, feel free to chime in, whoever wants to go. But like really the question I'm curious about is, Fabiano, you spoke about like asking questions. Dana, you also touched on that. What are some of the questions that you wish students actually asked you, but they don't seem to hit the nail? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is one question that they can ask you, or a few questions that they can ask you that actually will help them gain a little more clarity? Do you want to go, Fabiano?
That's a tough one. I'm trying to think about something that it's very interesting for students to keep in mind in terms of questions they should ask. But I think that one question that we don't hear a lot, and I believe that it's very important, and maybe Dana, you can pitch in there, but it's something that I particularly would ask myself and ask people when I'm looking for something, such as education, for example, is where can this particular program take me in the future? Right. So like, what are my opportunities? How does this open doors for me? And when I say open doors, I'm not talking only about opening doors in the country where I live or the country where I'm going to study. We know that now we are living in a world technically without borders, right? And we have to understand that we might be pursuing education, but we not always will know exactly where we are going to be 2 years from now or 3 years from now, and people have to be a little bit open today for opportunities, because opportunities may be in places they never realized that they could be, and that can change people's lives. So I think that that's one of the key questions, is to see to try to gather how that career or that opportunity or that program can lead to something in the future, and how big that can be, like how many opportunities can come out of it. Is this going to limit myself, or is this going to open more doors for me to go into different directions, or maybe specialize in something within certain areas? And that's something that I believe people need to ask, primarily, I would say.
Yeah, and I can add to that. I think that one of the things I find myself talking about so often, as it relates to Canadian education, is that, for international students to know that, regardless of the institution that you do choose to go to, know that you're making a good decision as it relates to academics and getting a quality education. Every university and college in this country is going to provide you with excellence and quality of education. And so what I would and what I urge students to ask is, okay, so what makes you different? What makes your institution stand out? Um, you know, because of that quality and that sort of level, that, whether you get a degree from Laurier or you get a degree from Brock University, for example, that piece of paper is incredible. It's going to be transferable anywhere in the world. But you want to talk about and ask, what is the experience? What is going to make this institution stand out above the rest? What are those types of, when we as recruiters get those questions, it's just like, woo, like it gets our, heart pumping, because, we want to be able to share with you sort of the high level things that say, this is why you want to come here, because, and you want to feel that, that passion from that institution as well. So I would say, ask a recruiter, ask the question, what makes you different? Why should I come study at your university?
And if you allow me, I have another question that they should be asking. And that question goes beyond asking us. The question is, ask yourself what you want and what you're looking for. Because education right now, it's not about what people are looking for or what your family is telling you or your friends are telling you. It's trying to be away from being influenced in that direction, but understanding what you really want, what you like, what you want to pursue. I think that that's the very first question that any international student has to ask themselves as well.
Couldn't agree more. Well said.
Beautiful. I like all these suggestions, and I've actually written them down just so that I have it. So one of the things that I found was really useful was like understanding, or like really looking at it from the point of view is that you are paying the tuition. So you make sure that you get everything you can out of the university. It's that dynamic that a lot of people kind of like miss out on, because, obviously it's a big organization. You tend to feel that like that they're the customer versus you are. But the point I'm trying to make is that make sure that you get your money's worth and don't hesitate to ask questions. So in continuing the same line of questions, Dana, in your experience with Wilfred Laurier and Fabiano, in your experience with Langara, what do you see? What are the questions that you find international students who are already in Canada ask you versus the ones who are abroad? Dana, do you want to go first?
Yeah. This is a great question because one of my regions is and where I'm responsible for recruitment is actually right here in Ontario. So I work with international students who are already studying. Whoops, I just muted myself by mistake. So at Laurier right now, if there's a ongoing thing that if you mute yourself or you don't realize you're muted, you have to donate $1 to our cystic fibrosis Shinorama campaign, which is an excellent cause, but that's our going thing right now. So I owe $1. I do actually work with these students, and so I work both in country and outside of the country, and I find that The questions that I get from international students already studying in Ontario or in the country are less Canada-centric. So I find that they have a good understanding of the education system, particularly in Ontario. They understand Canada. They've already chosen Canada. So if that makes sense, they've decided to come and study here in high school or for, a college program and are looking to transfer to university. So I find I spend less time talking about why Canada because they've already chosen Canada. And then when I'm abroad, I find that, again, I'm talking about that funnel that I touched on at the beginning. It's why Canada, why Ontario, why Laurier. I'm doing a little bit more of that when I'm talking to students outside of the country, because they want to know, okay, well, I've also got an option to go to school in the US and I've got offers in the UK, why should I come to Canada? And what are those key benefits of studying in Canada in specific? So I would say, yeah, questions about Canada, I get less of in country because they've already chosen here. They're here already and they know all those great benefits.
Yeah, I do have to agree with Dana. It's definitely that students here, they have a little bit more specific questions because they have already removed that layer of knowing what Canada is, what in our case British Columbia is, and which city to choose. They've been here, they've experienced, they already understand the system, so they have different types of questions, but definitely it's not related to the destination itself.
So let us talk about why Canada then. Dana, I'm going to ask you because you spoke about the funnel. So, why should students come to Canada versus any other place?
Yeah, probably one of my favorite things to talk about. But I think that just at a really high level, some of the reasons why Canada is an excellent place to study is because of the fact that the country is very welcoming, very multicultural and diverse, and wants international students to come and experience life in Canada. Opportunities for degree transferability. So no matter if you get a Canadian degree, no matter where you choose to live in the world, that degree is going to transfer. You can use those skills anywhere else in the world. Opportunities for work. So as per your study visa, you are able to work part-time on or off campus, so upwards of 20 hours a week. So you can actually work, make some money to help supplement some of the costs that are associated with going to school, the postgraduate work permit, so you can apply to stay in Canada. So this opens opportunities for immigration pathways. So not only are we just really friendly and welcoming and we want you here, we want you to experience the Canadian experience, but we also want to give you the opportunity to stay should you want to gain some good Canadian work experience and maybe go back to your home country, or maybe work on staying here in Canada. Those are some highlight options. The one other thing I'd say is cost. In comparison to some other countries, Canada has very, very effective, cost-effective tuition. So some of the kind of mid-range in the world in terms of what it costs to go to university as an international student. So some good cost-effective options as well.
Wonderful. Those are good points, and they really speak to me because there are certain countries that don't really have options for you to stay after you finish your education. So one particular country. Anyway, Fabiano, did you have any pointers you wanted to add?
I think they covered most of the points, but what I would add is safety. It's another important item, particularly for students coming from certain regions of the world. So safety is a very big issue. And another thing that I see working differently in Canada is the way that educators will work with students to help them find the right fit, even if that means that they are not coming to their institution. So institutions in Canada are not looking for any student. Institutions in Canada are looking for students who are aligned with their institutional goals, right? And that makes students a little bit more comfortable in the sense of looking for something, because they know that institutions will try to help guide them to find the best choice for them, not for us. And I think that that's something different in the Canadian education system as well. It's looking forward to the success of those students. Being Canadian or international, everybody is treated exactly the same.
That's nice. And in like, since we are talking about, you know, like really streamlining your choices and knowing what you really want, what would you say are the most important things that a student should consider when they're picking an institution for higher education? Fabiano.
Our country is so big, and as Dana mentioned, we are recognized for the quality of education that is offered here. So you have so many options. If you are considering Canada as your destination, you have so many options. It is very important for students to consider lifestyle, because each province in Canada will provide them with a different experience, right? So that's, I think, key for students to choose. Okay, so you're telling me Canada is great, institutions are awesome, so it doesn't matter if I go here or I go there, and I have like a bunch of institutions in different provinces that offer the option that I'm looking for. So how I'm gonna make my choice, how I'm gonna make a decision? Look for your lifestyle. Look for what that province and that city can offer you. It's that what you expect for your life, right? It's that what you want to pursue. And then look also, as Dana said, like institutions can be a little bit different in terms of the services that they offer. So try to look for that. Is there something in particular that you believe is very important for you that you cannot have that not to be available? So that can also be another factor to consider when you are looking for an option here in Canada.
Yeah, and I can add to that, just like it is such a massive choice that you are making as international students. It is a huge decision. You are potentially uprooting your entire life, coming to the other side of the world to get an experience and to start building your life and building your future. And so I think it's also, as recruiters, we don't take that lightly. Like, it is not something we're like, yeah, just, pack your stuff up, come on a plane and, come over here and everything's going to be fine. It is a huge decision, and we really, really don't take that lightly. But when you are selecting a university, like I said, do your research, knock on doors, ask a million questions. Also, look to see, at the end of the day, we come to university for, personal growth, development, opportunities, experience, all those sorts of things. But we do go to university, ultimately to get a degree and to get to study in a program that interests you, right? We want you to do well, and we want you to study in something that you're passionate about. So that can also help sort of weed out your options as well. If you want to be an engineer, you want to look at the schools that offer engineering, right? So that's another kind of key tip too, and that can help you sort of narrow down that search of this, okay, I've got hundreds of universities and colleges I could select from, and they're all of the same caliber and quality, but this is the program I want. So that maybe brings things in a little bit. And now I'm going to go knock on doors, and I'm going to ask those hundreds and hundreds of questions. And you want to make sure that that students are doing that for sure.
Okay, great. So I think that what Dana said was a really good, I want to use the word funnel again, but this is not like a sales funnel. This is like a step-by-step funnel of like understanding where you want to study and then narrowing it down to the courses you want, and then asking your questions and deciding finally where you want to zoom in on an option. And one of the questions that I get a lot on Instagram, as well as some of the questions that we're getting here, is that people are like, so currently I'm doing this course, currently I'm working as a business analyst, currently I'm doing this, and I want to do an MBA further ahead. and is there a course in a university? Is there this course in the university? So I know that ideally you have to start with Google, but for people who are not sure what exactly the course is called or like what course they want to do, but they do know that they're interested in a particular industry, how do they go about looking? So for example, like how does one go about looking for a course in the tech industry in Wilfred Laurier on the website or on Langara's website? How do you start a process?
Do you want me to go?
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
Yeah. So that's totally fair. And what I would say is even if you're not 100% sure exactly what the course is that you're interested in taking, but is to like take a look at maybe it means sort of like going through university options. Like if you have an idea of where you might want to go, like if you want to be in the Vancouver area, for example, okay, what are the schools in the area? And then maybe just do some research on their program pages on the website. So for example, if you were interested in, a graduate course in business, so you wanted to do your master's of business administration, you could, come onto Laurier's website and literally just go in the search and put business, and all business programs from the undergraduate, master's, and PhD level would come up. And then there's on Laurier's page, I can speak on behalf of my institution, we have on the left-hand side, contact information for each program, like facilitators, to get in touch with recruitment and admissions to learn more about the programs. But sometimes I think that, if you just even think of like, those keywords, so it's like, I want to do something in computer science. Okay, let me just write computer science programs in Canada. You're going to get a ton of different listings. So, but yeah, look for those keywords and look at those websites. I think a lot of universities spend a lot of money so that your user experience is nice on their website. So usually program options are nice and easy to find on university websites.
Great. Thank you for that, Dana. And Fabiano, did you want to add something about Langara's website as well?
Yeah, I think that it's pretty much similar. Institutions in Canada, they do a pretty good job in trying to help guide students to find options within certain fields of study. So I think that's a key point. Like Dana said, like you want to look for computer science or computer studies, you go into the technological field in these institutions, and you're going to be able to see all options that are available within that. And then it's easier for students to understand, oh, you have something related to this, or you have something related to that topic that interests me as well. And then they can explore further in terms of knowing exactly what that program entails and what classes are part of that program. So it is fairly easy to go by and find it. And Canada also, as a country, provides tools for students to look for institutions throughout the whole country. So you can go to the EduCanada's website, and you can find options like you can type the level of program that you want, and you can choose the field of study that you want, and it's going to pop up all the institutions in the whole country that are available for students with programs in those particular fields of study. So that's another tool that can be very useful for students looking for Canada.
And one more thing that reminds me, just in terms of EduCanada and events too, I would highly encourage you to take a look on the EduCanada website to see, just to give you scope of institutions that a lot of embassies in potentially your home country are going to be facilitating virtual events for this year. Usually they're in person, but that might be a great opportunity for you to register for some of those virtual fairs and events that are being facilitated by the Canadian High Commission in your country. So that you can hear, pitches from different institutions and listen for things that pique your interest. And then, you actually have then a recruiter and somebody that you can talk to right then and there. So take a look at some virtual fair options that are available in your country this coming year.
That's a great tip. I actually, this is the first time I did not know about that. So I'm just going to repeat that because I found that very valuable. Check with the embassy of the place you want to go to in your country and or your city, and then see if they have some events. And it's good that they're all going to be digital and virtual because of COVID. So you can make a lot of, like, even if you can't get there, you still can just do it from home in your pajamas. We will also be pasting the link of EduCanada down below, so you can access that as well. And I'm sure there are many more other websites like university aggregators, so feel free to start Googling them. Okay, so I'm going to ask a couple more questions. And then, Dana, I want to start with you this time. So in your experience, what do you like from generation to generation of new students who are coming? What is different? Like, what is new with the new generation? What are their ambitions different? Are their goals different? Are their aims different? You know, do they seek different things? How do you think that the landscape has changed?
Cool question. And I would say that the big difference that I've seen over the last couple of years and in engaging with this generation of students, this Gen Z group, I'm certainly noticing that the focus is and the questions are around career outcomes. So I'm finding that students are asking a lot of questions about, okay, I'm interested in this program and what opportunities are available to me while I'm studying in that program, and ultimately, what's the end game? Like, what are my options once I graduate? What are the supports available at your university that are going to help me get to this goal? So I find that Gen Z is very futuristic in thinking. They're thinking ahead. They're thinking already 4 years down the line with a degree in hand. What am I gonna be? What's my career going to look like, or could it look like if I study in this program at your university? I also find that authenticity is key. So these live sessions, I think it's so important to engage with you all in this way so that you can get a good feeling for what each institution is sort of like. And so, go sit in on webinars with universities. Go like sit in on, take a look when you're doing that research. Like at Laurier, we will be hosting a series of different webinars and podcasts and just open conversation. I know that realness is important to you. So look for those elements as well. But yeah, the future and, that career focus I'm finding is a really big thing in today's recruitment world.
You're absolutely right. I didn't know what I wanted until very end. So kudos to Gen Z. Fabiano, did you have anything you wanted to add as well?
Just one point that it's connected to what we discussed a little bit earlier. What I feel and what I see, a shift that I've been identifying lately is students are a little bit more authentic in terms of the options that they are looking for. So students are looking more for programs that are going to provide them with the tools that they need to accomplish something that they believe in. So people are a little bit more flexible. They're trying to they're trying to dare a little bit more in their choices, because they want to be in a career that is going to be not only giving them money to pay the bills, but it's going to be fulfilling themselves. Like it's going to make them feel good about what they are doing. And I see a move towards that, a shift towards that, people looking for things that are really meaning something very special for them.
Wonderful. I think that's a very important feeling, and good luck. I mean, I'm really glad that they get to experience that way ahead in life. Not a lot of people do. Okay, so last question to the both of you, and this is my favorite question. And I'm going to start with Fabiano this time. What is your favorite part of working with international students who choose to study in Canada?
Favorite part, I have to go back to why I chose this profession in the first place. And the reason why I chose to be in education probably 15 years ago is when I made a choice of going into the education field, is the importance that education has in changing lives. That's the key thing for me. So that's what drives me. That's what makes me wake up in the morning. It's knowing that I'm going to talk to people who are making a critical decision that will change their lives in the future. And as a consequence of that, it's going to change the lives of their family members. It's going to change the lives of their communities, because now programs are helping people understand how important it is to be part of your community and help your community be engaged, and how that is going to reflect in the life of people in overall in the world. So I think that's the key driving factor for me, and one of the most important things that I identify in working with international education.
Wonderful. That's very inspiring. Dana, I'm really looking forward to hear your answer as well.
Fabiano, beautifully said. Stunning, stunning. And I couldn't agree more. And when people ask me what I love about my job, I mean, first of all, I feel so privileged to work for an institution that, prides itself on fairness and equality. And I love going to work and representing Wilfred Laurier University every day, because I believe so strongly in the experience. Also, when people ask me about my job, I often talk about the relationships and the people that I am so fortunate to be able to meet and work with all over the world. Understanding new cultures and meeting not only students, but their families, and really feeling like sometimes, as a recruiter, you really do, you are a part of somebody's journey. And so kind of talking, piggybacking off of what Fabiano said, it's education is such a vital part of the world that we live in. And if you are able to take an experience at one of our institutions and bring it maybe home with you and expand on that and do well and do right by communities, it is an unbelievable feeling to be able to, help a student find their way and find what's right for them. And, I will say, like, sometimes it's not always Laurier. It's not my interactions with them. It's not always Laurier, but I always remember conversations that I have with people. And if I have led you to a direction that's closer to you putting a light on in your head, I have done my job. And I think that is what I love so much, is that I love when I have a conversation, I meet a family, I get to know them, and then you get to see a light switch go off, like, oh, you have that program? That's exactly what I want. Oh my gosh, I never knew that I could have. And it's like, oh my gosh, mind blowing. It is the best feeling to be a part of somebody's journey. And I love staying in touch with the international students that I have recruited to Laurier throughout the years. And it's a really feel good position.
You guys just gave me goosebumps. Honestly, that was so beautiful, both of your answers. And I know, Dana, what you're talking about, because that is exactly what I went through. I had a very niche, industry that I was looking for, and I worked so hard to find the kind of the right role, right education. So I know exactly what you're talking about, and we don't have a lot of time. So, but I did want to kind of reiterate the point that you mentioned, that recruiters do keep in touch with their students, international students, even after they're apart, even after they join a university. So, do make. Yes. Sorry, Dana, you wanted to say something?
Just saying yes, absolutely, we do.
So, make use of that, guys. Don't just think that it's a one-time relationship. Totally build on that relationship, build on that journey. It's a wonderful feeling. But actually, thank you so much, both of you, for joining us. It was a very informative session, and I'm sure that our viewers have a lot to consider when they plan to study here in Canada. So thank you both for joining us and sharing your expertise. I really enjoyed having you guys here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
If you still have questions about higher education that we weren't able to answer here, please comment below and I will address it on our next episode. Please also like this video if you found it useful, and more importantly, send it to anybody else you think might find it important. Now, if you are here to learn about the CAEL test as well, please stay tuned. It is now time to meet Brandi, our a resident CAEL test expert, and see what lessons she has planned for you.
All right, thanks, Ashwati. Now today we're going to continue with the writing series that we started last week, talking about how to write complete sentences and using correct sentence structure. So today's language tip then, to help you prepare for the CAEL test or to even complete assignments if you're already registered at college or university, we'll be focusing on the sentence structure, specifically on complex sentence structure writing. Now, just before we get into the complex structure, I'd like to take a very quick minute to review some of the structures we looked at last week, just so that it's fresh in our mind, because we'll be adding on with some new steps today. So we already discussed then what a simple sentence requires. So every sentence we write has to have a subject and a predicate. So the subject will be who or what the sentence is about. And in these two simple sentences, you can see that scientists and they form the subject. We've underlined them. The predicate is just the rest of the words in the sentence that tell you what the subject is doing. The predicate will always include a completed verb, and the verbs here have been highlighted yellow so that we can keep track of them. So should reanalyze and can correct are the two verbs. So altogether, we have two complete simple sentences. Now, when we started looking at compound sentence structure, all we did is we took both simple sentences that we had created and we connected or combined them together using a joining word. The joining word in this example sentence is so, and we call those joining words conjunctions. So this whole sentence now is a compound one, and it reads, scientists should reanalyze established conclusions and facts so they can correct unwarranted biases. All right, now the type of conjunction that we looked at in order to make a compound sentence is what we call a coordinating conjunction. And there are only 7 coordinating conjunctions in English. If we can remember the fanboys word, we'll remember all 7 of those conjunctions: for and nor, but, or, yet, so. So by taking one of those conjunctions and putting it in the center or the middle of our compound sentence, we should then have 2 complete sentences, which we call independent clauses, on either side of the conjunction, like you see here. So we've written the independent clause within the red brackets. Okay, let's add on to that now. Let's get into the next language segment of today's episode. So I have here a clause on the screen, and I'm going to ask the question if we believe together that this is an independent clause. So the idea on the screen reads, even though David was thoroughly prepared to deliver his final presentation in class today. So in order for us to see if it's independent, meaning if it's complete and can stand by itself, we need to identify the subject and the predicate. So we know that the subject of this sentence is David. We do see a verb, which we need, and the verb is highlighted yellow, which is was prepared. And most of the words in that sentence tell us what David is doing. We know that he was thoroughly prepared to deliver his final presentation in class today. But I've got 2 words at the beginning of my sentence that are creating a rather unfinished idea. If I was to take away even though, what I have left is definitely an independent clause. This sentence is complete by itself and it doesn't need any help whatsoever to finish the thought. When I do have these 2 words starting my sentence, even though, it sets up an unfinished or incomplete thought. And when we have an incomplete idea, we refer to them as the dependent clause. All right, so again, we should know by now what an independent clause is. Well, a dependent clause is the opposite. If independent means you're a strong enough person to stand all by yourself and the independent sentence can stand by itself, consider the opposite. If you are a dependent person, if you depend on your friend to come help you move furniture to a new apartment, then that means you need help finishing the action. And the same goes for dependent clauses in English. A dependent clause also needs help to finish the thought because it's not quite complete on its own. So even though we do have a subject and a completed verb here, we don't have an idea that's complete. And we call that a fragment. All right, that's basically what dependent clauses are. They suggest sort of half of an idea, but we would need to write another clause at the end of the sentence if we wanted to finish the idea. So those blue words there at the beginning of our clause, even though, these are also conjunctions. These are also connecting words, but they belong to a different group of conjunctions than we looked at last day. So those fanboys words used to create compound sentences, we call those coordinating conjunctions. But the word even though and the rest of the words on this list are what we call subordinating conjunctions. They still join ideas together, but they're used in a slightly different way. All right, now there are many, many subordinating conjunctions in English. There are probably 50 or more. This group of 12 conjunctions that you see before you are probably the more commonly used conjunctions that you will be using in your writing and also as you speak to join ideas together. So they are arranged here alphabetically. I chose to put although and even though together just because they mean pretty much the same thing, but otherwise you'll see these words are listed alphabetically. So let's get back to the actual structure of our sentence. In order to complete the idea, make sure that the sentence is finished and we understand what's happening, we have to connect that dependent clause that we started with to an independent idea. So you can see that we've written a complete independent clause or a simple sentence at the end of this idea. All right, I'll put that in red brackets for us. So the dependent clause comes first. The independent clause here follows second. So the entire sentence from beginning to end reads, even though David was thoroughly prepared to deliver his final presentation in class today, a heavy snowstorm overnight prompted school officials to close the campus for the day. So now we have a complete sentence. The entire idea makes sense with the two clauses attached together. And when we take a dependent clause and we combine it with an independent clause, we have created a complex sentence structure. So this is one of our goals for academic writing. We want to start creating longer, more complex ideas, right? And this is one way to do it. You notice though, we can also reverse the order. We still have both types of clauses together, but this time we're going to start with the independent idea and finish with the dependent one. So we haven't changed any vocabulary words whatsoever. We've just literally cut and pasted and rearranged the order. So it now reads, a heavy snowstorm overnight prompted school officials to close the campus for the day, even though David was thoroughly prepared to deliver his final presentation in class today. All right, again, the independent idea has been placed inside those red brackets to keep it separate. That's the most important part of the sentence. You absolutely have to have an independent clause, otherwise you don't have a sentence at all, okay? The secondary or dependent clause that follows, you'll notice it's the part of the sentence that contains the subordinating conjunction, which is in this case, even though. So let's take a look at the two versions of the same idea side by side. All right, so the top version starts with our dependent clause because we've got the conjunction even though, and then the bottom example there actually starts with the independent part, a heavy snowstorm. So the conjunction here, even though, falls in the middle of that sentence. So yes, I've rearranged the structure here, or the order rather, of the clauses. But there's also one more difference that I want to point out here, because it's a grammar rule that we need to memorize. So have a look then at these two sentences. They are both complex. They are both correct. Can you spot the other very tiny difference between them? And I'm going to pull out my little laser pointer here to show you. So you notice there's a comma right here in this example, but we don't have any comma whatsoever in the bottom example. And this is a really important rule to memorize. So when we start with the dependent clause. So even though David and on, when we start with the dependent clause, we have to put a comma at the end of that idea. And it's going to separate the dependent part from the independent piece that follows, which you see in the red brackets. But in the bottom example, we're starting with the independent or the completed section first. And as a result, we don't need any comma whatsoever. So you're going to have to find a way that works for you to help you remember in which case you use the comma. Okay, I always think of it as if I'm starting with the dependent part, that's the weaker part. It's going to need all the help it can get in order to attach to the strongest part of the sentence. So I'll need to add that comma in to make it a smooth connection. That's how I've always thought of it. Whereas in the bottom, I'm starting with the independent or the complete part, and it's strong enough to be by itself, so it can just keep right on running into the dependent clause. That might be one technique, I don't know. Find one that works for you, but that has always helped me keep the comma rules straight. It is a very small point, but it's also a very important one. So just to sort of finish off here today, let's have a look at one or two more examples of complex structure. So here in the top, we started again with the dependent piece, but we're going to use a different conjunction. We're using the word because. So we have, because the internet connection is weak in our head office downtown, technicians will install significant upgrades next week. All right, you'll notice that because we've started with that conjunction, the dependent piece, we've added in the comma. In the bottom, we have, technicians will install significant upgrades next week because the internet connection is weak in our head office downtown. So we started with the independent, strong, complete part, so no comma is necessary. Okay, and the last thing I want you to make sure you're remembering from today's lesson here is that your independent clause, your complete sentence itself, will never ever have the conjunction within it. So when you look within these red brackets, you'll notice that this part of the sentence could actually stand all by itself if you wanted it to. It would be a simple sentence if it were by itself, but because we're attaching it to the dependent clause on either side of it, we've turned it into a complex structure. Okay, we'll do one more. So this one we're using when as an example of our subordinating conjunction. So in the top piece, we have, when I decided to immigrate to Canada, I was overcome with excitement at the opportunities that lay ahead. And below, we've rearranged the order and we now have, I was overcome with excitement at the opportunities that lay ahead when I decided to immigrate to Canada. Okay, so we'll find our independent ideas. They are the clauses that do not have any conjunctions within them. And you'll also notice that in the top, because we started with the dependent piece with the conjunction, we have a comma. In the bottom, we started with the independent or strong part of the sentence, so no comma is needed. All right, so I'm hoping that by now you're a little more comfortable working with the two types of clauses in your writing, so the independent and the dependent clauses, and that you can practice creating your own compound and complex sentence structures with these. Next week, we're going to start looking at some paragraph structure. So join me then. Take care and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, I hope that gave you a little bit more information on academic writing. Brandi will be back with more content, but we do have some news for you. Starting next week, you can access CAEL Time with Brandi through a separate playlist on our YouTube channel. Every Tuesday, we will be sharing new CAEL preparation episodes instead of Thursdays. You will still be getting guidance and help on higher education from us every Thursday, but I think Brandi deserves her own playlist. So make sure you're subscribed to our channel and do click on the bell icon to receive notifications when Brandi's on air. You can also ask CAEL prep questions in the comments anywhere on Thursday or on Tuesday, and Brandi will answer them either on the next show or when she comes live. If you have any specific questions or if you want to learn anything specific about the CAEL test, please also comment below. Meanwhile, we can find out who the author of our quote is. So I shared a quote early on the show, make short-term compromises for long-term gains. And I wanted to know if you knew who this was. This was said by Dr. Pat Mirenda. She is the coordinator for Autism and Developmental Disabilities Program, and she is also the director at Center for Interdisciplinary Research and Collaboration in Autism. It's called CIRCA, CIRCA. Do check it out. She said this quote in one of her many talks on autism. Dr. Pat is very popular in the education and autism industry. In autism field, sorry. You can check out her videos from the description below. Please don't forget to ask questions again in the comments below. In the meantime, let's go to our news updates. Okay, so if you are an international student living abroad or in Canada, you may be eligible for the CAEL scholarship. If you took the CAEL test on or after July 2020, you can win 5,000 Canadian dollars towards your tuition. Now, I will link the scholarship page below as well, and you can check it out. If you have any doubts, you know what to do. The CAEL test can now also be taken at home in Canada. You can register via the link in the description below. It is a 3.5-hour test that needs to be taken at home in a private room. You can also send your scores to 5 institutions for no cost. And I know that a lot of you who are interested in taking the CAEL test and who are interested in studying in Canada are abroad. But worry not, we are working very hard to make sure that the CAEL online test comes to a place near you. So do stay tuned. You can go to our website, cael.ca, cael.ca, and enter your email ID in the notification bar on top. It is a red box headline on top. And once you do that, you'll be notified if the CAEL online option opens near you. So do go ahead and do that. And I'm really excited for this opportunity because this opens a lot of doors for a lot of students. So that's it for our news updates. We have yet another exciting episode planned for you next week on Thursday, the 27th at 11 a.m. PST. Please do join us, and please invite anybody else you think is interested in studying in Canada. Until next week, see you, and please stay safe. Bye.